My wife cheated with her boss, stole $200, $0 from our joint account, and is now fighting me over the $2 million property we bought together. I never thought I'd see this level of betrayal. Hello, everyone. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Now, let's begin the video. Using a throwaway for obvious reasons, with certain specifics modified to preserve anonymity. I never thought I'd see the kind of betrayal that hits you so hard it feels like your chest is caving in. It started with small things, little signs that my wife, Lisa, was drifting away. She'd be more distant, secretive about her phone, and I'd catch her lying about where she was or who she was with. But I brushed it off, convincing myself I was paranoid. Then came the bombshell I wasn't prepared for. It all unraveled one ordinary Tuesday evening. I came home early from work because I wasn't feeling well. I figured I'd surprise Lisa, maybe cook dinner, spend some time together. As I walked in, I noticed her phone was on the kitchen table, buzzing nonstop. I didn't think much of it at first, but something told me to check it. I picked up her phone and saw a string of texts, flirty, suggestive messages with her boss, Mark. The texts weren't subtle and they definitely weren't innocent. My stomach dropped. I scrolled through more messages, and there it was, proof that Lisa had been seeing Mark behind my back for months. She'd been going out late, making excuses about work projects, but this was different. The way she talked about Mark, the way she flirted, she didn't even try to hide it anymore. I felt like I'd been sucker punched in the gut. All those nights I wondered why she was distant, why she was so secretive. She was cheating on me, and with her boss no less. I didn't even sleep that night. My mind was racing. I knew I had to confront her, but I was scared of what I'd hear. I didn't want to believe it, but the evidence was staring me right in the face. The next morning, I found her in the kitchen, acting like everything was normal. I just looked at her and said, "Lisa, I know what you've been doing." Her face instantly turned cold, and she tried to deny it, of course. "You're crazy," she snapped. "You're overreacting. It's just sex. It doesn't mean anything." But I knew better. I could see the guilt in her eyes, the way her hands trembled when she tried to lie. I felt a mixture of anger, heartbreak, and disbelief. How could she do this to me, to us? We had a life together, shared dreams, a house, a future. And now I was realizing that everything I believed in was built on lies. She had stolen from us $200 from our joint account, money we'd saved for our future, for our kids if we ever decided to have any. She'd been funneling it to Mark, probably to keep him happy, to keep him quiet about her affair. The betrayal cut so deep I wondered if I'd ever recover. I looked at her and I saw this bitchy smirk, like she thought she was untouchable, like she could lie her way out of anything. But I wasn't going to let her get away with it. No way. I knew I had to do something, and fast. I started planning how I'd confront her again, how I'd get my money back, and how I'd protect what was left of my dignity. I felt like I'd been hit by a freight train, but I was still standing. Just. After that first confrontation, I knew I couldn't just let things slide. Lisa's lies kept piling up, and her attitude was getting even more bitchy and dismissive. She kept spinning stories about how nothing serious was going on, how she was just stressed at work, and that I was overreacting because I didn't understand her. But I wasn't buying it anymore. I'd seen enough. The evidence was too clear, and her attitude just made me angrier. That weekend, I started digging into her bank accounts, her phone records, anything I could find. I needed to know exactly how much she'd stolen, how long this had been going on, and who else might be involved. It didn't take long before I uncovered more than I expected. She'd transferred about $200, $0 from our joint account over the past 6 months, money I thought was safe, meant for our future. She'd been funneling it to Mark, probably as hush money or just because she thought she could get away with it. I was furious. That money was supposed to be our safety net, and she stole it like it was nothing. Meanwhile, her stories kept changing. Now she was claiming she only took some of the money because she was stressed and needed a break, that she never intended to hurt me. Yeah, right. She also insisted she was under pressure at work, but she refused to tell me what kind of pressure, and I could see through her bullshit. She was lying so much I didn't know what to believe anymore. The more I pressed, the more she yelled and called me paranoid, insecure, jealous. That bitchy attitude she threw around like she was the victim just made me want to scream. Then came the real shocker. I found out that Lisa had been having sex with Mark at least once a week, sometimes more. Not just sneaking around, but actually sleeping with him. I found explicit messages and even some photos. She'd send him pictures saying she missed him, that she wanted more. That was the moment I felt my world shatter completely. It wasn't just about money or lies anymore. It was about betrayal on every level. She was cheating on me with her boss, stealing our savings, and acting like she was the victim in all of it. I couldn't believe I'd married such a manipulative, selfish woman. I'd always thought Lisa was the best thing that ever happened to me, but now I saw her for what she truly was, a liar, a thief, and a cheater. I started to think about everything I'd ever done for her, how I'd worked hard to give her a good life, and how she repaid me with this. I felt disgusted with myself for not seeing it sooner. But more than anything, I was furious. Furious that she thought she could get away with it, that she could lie and steal and still act like she was the victim. I decided I needed to get my act together. I couldn't let her keep pulling the wool over my eyes. I started to plan my next move, how I'd confront her again, how I'd get the money back, and how I'd protect myself from her lies. I knew I couldn't trust her anymore, not even a little bit. I also realized I had to be smart about how I handled the situation. If she was willing to cheat, steal, and lie, what else was she capable of? I couldn't risk her doing more damage. So I gathered all the evidence I had, screenshots, bank statements, her texts, and kept it in a safe place. I was preparing myself for what was to come. Honestly, I felt like I was in a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. My life, the woman I loved, the future I had pictured, it all seemed to be crumbling before my eyes. And yet, I knew I had to stay strong. I had to find a way to fix this, or at least to get out of it with what I could salvage. The worst part, I didn't even know how much more I'd find if I kept digging, but I was ready to face whatever came next. Once I had all the evidence in hand, I knew I couldn't keep pretending everything was fine. Lisa kept acting like she was the victim, throwing fits whenever I brought up her lies or the stolen money. She'd call me paranoid, accuse me of spying on her, and then turn around and act like nothing was wrong. But I wasn't about to let her manipulate me anymore. The more she played the innocent victim, the more I realized I needed to take control of the situation. That Saturday, I sat her down in the living room, my heart pounding. I was trying to stay calm, but inside I was boiling. I laid out everything, screenshots of her texts with Mark, bank statements showing the transfers, the explicit photos she'd sent him. I told her I knew about the affair, the money she'd stolen, and how sick I felt about her lying to my face all these years. Her reaction, a smirk like she thought she was untouchable. She tried to deny everything, of course. "You're overreacting," she said. "You don't understand how stressful my job is. Mark is just a friend. This is all a misunderstanding." I looked her dead in the eyes and said, "Lisa, I have the proof right here. You've been cheating on me with your boss, stealing from us, and lying through your teeth. How do you expect me to believe anything you say now?" Her face twisted into a bitchy sneer. She told me I was crazy, that I was jealous and paranoid, and that I was destroying our marriage over some stupid accusations. She accused me of spying on her, of invading her privacy. I felt a cold rage rise inside me. How dare she call me paranoid when she'd been sneaking around, fucking her boss and stealing our money. That's when I decided I'd had enough. I told her I was done with her lies, that I was going to take legal action, and that I was going to get my money back. I also told her I knew about her affair and I was going to make sure she paid for what she did. Her reaction was priceless. She got even more bitchy, started yelling, calling me possessive, jealous, and crazy. But I didn't care. I knew I had to act fast. I contacted a lawyer that same day. I wanted to see what legal options I had to recover the stolen money and protect my assets. It didn't take long before I learned that Lisa's theft of $200, $0 from our joint account, was legally actionable. I also found out she'd been trying to hide her assets, moving money around, and even trying to buy herself a new car. With our joint funds, I was furious. How could she be so reckless, so selfish? I also learned that she had been planning to leave me, possibly with Mark, and take a big chunk of our property. That property, our house, worth about $1.2 million, was the last thing she was fighting me over. She claimed she deserved half, that she'd contributed equally, but I knew better. I'd paid the mortgage, done the renovations, and built this life with my own sweat and money. She was trying to steal my house, and I wasn't about to let that happen. I decided I'd fight her for every inch of it. I wanted her out of my life, out of my house, and I wanted her to face the consequences of her betrayal. In the meantime, I started gathering more evidence of her affair, even secretly recording her conversations when she thought I wasn't listening. I wasn't planning to hold back anymore. I wanted her to see that I wasn't going to be played any longer. I also made sure to keep a close eye on her, watching her every move. I knew she was capable of more tricks, more lies, and I had to be prepared. This whole thing became a whirlwind of legal battles, emotional strain, and financial chaos. But I refused to back down. I knew I had to stand my ground for myself and for what little dignity I had left. Lisa's bitchy attitude, her lies, her cheating, it all made me realize how much I'd been blind. I'd trusted her for years, and she repaid that trust with betrayal. But I was determined to come out of this stronger, even if it meant losing everything. Sometimes the only way to reclaim yourself is to fight for it, no matter how ugly that fight gets. The legal process was a nightmare, honestly. I never thought I'd be in a situation where I'd have to fight my own wife over a house I worked so hard to pay for. But Lisa was relentless. She hired her own lawyer, and suddenly, every conversation turned into a battle of wills. She kept insisting she was entitled to half, claiming she contributed just as much as I did. The bitchy attitude she threw around made it clear she thought she could manipulate her way out of this mess. I had to stay calm. But inside I was furious. Every time she tried to spin her lies, I'd remind her of the evidence, her texts, the bank transfers, the explicit photos, the secret recordings. I made sure my lawyer had everything, every detail, every piece of proof I could find. I wanted her to see I wasn't bluffing. I also started to take steps to freeze her assets, to make sure she couldn't just run away with the money or the house. Meanwhile, she kept up her bitchy act, calling me paranoid and insecure. She'd say I was overreacting, that I was jealous of her success, even though I knew she'd been sleeping with her boss for months and stealing our savings. The more she denied, the more I saw her for what she really was, a manipulative, selfish woman who thought she could get away with anything. I couldn't believe I married someone like her, someone capable of lying, cheating, stealing, and then acting like the victim. It was like living with a different person, one who had no conscience. The worst part was the money. I had to prove that she'd stolen it, that she'd been funneling it to Mark, and that she intended to leave me with nothing. I got a forensic accountant involved to trace every dollar. It turned out she'd been moving money into her sister's account, trying to hide it. I also found out she'd been making secret payments on a new car, which she'd bought with our joint funds. That made me sick. How could she be so reckless, so greedy? The property fight got even messier. She claimed she deserved half because she contributed to the household, but I reminded her that I'd paid all the mortgage, all the taxes, and done the renovations. I had receipts, bank statements, everything. I told her she was trying to steal my house and I wasn't going to let her. I started preparing for the court hearing, gathering all the evidence and planning my arguments. I knew I had a strong case, but I also knew Lisa would pull every trick in the book to win. One day, I caught her trying to transfer some of her assets again, probably to hide her true financial situation. I had her served with a court order to freeze her accounts. She went ballistic, calling me a controlling asshole, but I didn't care. I was done playing nice. This wasn't just about money anymore, it was about justice. She had betrayed me, lied to my face, and tried to steal everything I worked so hard for. I also made it clear that I was prepared to go to trial if I had to. I wanted her to know I wasn't backing down. The more she fought, the more I realized how much she underestimated me. I wasn't just some naive husband who got played. No, I was determined to fight for what's rightfully mine. I was sick of her bitchy attitude, her lies, and her manipulations. The truth was out now, and I was going to make sure she paid for it. Every day felt like a roller coaster: anger, frustration, hope, despair. But I kept reminding myself that I deserved better than this. I deserved someone who respected me, who didn't cheat, steal, and lie. I was angry at her, yes, but I was also angry at myself for trusting her for so long. Still, I knew I had no choice but to push forward. This was about reclaiming my life, my money, and my dignity. I wasn't going to let her walk all over me anymore. By now, the courtroom battles had become a relentless war. Lisa was trying every trick in the book, filing motions to delay, claiming she needed more time, trying to spin stories about how she was the real victim, and insisting she deserved half the house because she contributed emotionally and mentally. But I had the evidence, and I had the law on my side. Still, her bitchy attitude and manipulative tactics made it clear she wasn't going down without a fight. I remember sitting across from her lawyer in the courtroom, feeling a mixture of exhaustion and determination. I'd spent countless nights poring over documents, hearing forensic accountants, and trying to stay one step ahead of her. I knew she was trying to hide assets, trying to make herself look innocent, but I wasn't buying it anymore. The evidence was too overwhelming. She stolen a significant chunk of our savings, $200, and was trying to manipulate the property settlement to her advantage. One of the most infuriating moments was when she sat there, smirking, trying to act like she was the wronged party. She kept lying about her affair, claiming she only wanted to see if Mark was the right guy, that it was just sex, and that she never intended to hurt me. I wanted to scream at her to tell her how disgusting and selfish she was, but I knew I had to stay composed. I had to let the evidence do the talking. The judge wasn't buying her bullshit either. After weeks of hearings, he ruled that I was the legal owner of the house, based on the mortgage payments and the title deed. Lisa was ordered to pay back the stolen money, and the court put a freeze on her assets. That was a huge relief, but I knew the worst was yet to come. She was still fighting me over the property, claiming she deserved half, that I was trying to cheat her out of her rightful share. Meanwhile, I was also dealing with the emotional fallout. Every time I saw her bitchy smirk or heard her manipulative tone, I felt a mix of disgust and heartbreak. How could she do this to me? To our marriage? All those years I worked so hard, and she just took everything, including my trust. I felt betrayed on every level. I was angry at myself for not seeing her true nature sooner. I felt like I'd been played for a fool. But I also knew I couldn't let her win. I had to keep fighting for what was rightfully mine. I also started to realize just how much her lies had affected me. I'd become paranoid, second-guessing every word she said, every move she made. I was constantly on edge, waiting for the next bombshell or manipulation. I knew I had to protect myself emotionally, but it was hard. The betrayal cut so deep that sometimes I wondered if I'd ever be able to trust again. But I also knew I couldn't keep living in this chaos forever. I had to focus on rebuilding my life, even if it meant losing her and everything we had. Looking back, I see how much this experience has changed me. It's made me more cautious, more aware of red flags I'd ignored for too long. It's also taught me that sometimes you have to fight tooth and nail to protect what's yours. No matter how bitchy, manipulative, or selfish someone is, the truth tends to come out in the end. I just wish I'd seen it sooner. But now I'm finally taking control of my life again, and I refuse to let her steal any more from me, emotionally, financially, or legally. I've learned a hard lesson about trust and betrayal, but I'm stronger for it. And one thing for sure, I'll never let anyone do this to me again. The final court hearing was a relief, but also a bittersweet victory. After months of legal battles, Lisa's attempts to manipulate the system, and her bitchy, manipulative attitude, the judge finally ruled in my favor. The house was awarded to me, and she was ordered to pay back the stolen $200, $0 plus interest. Her attempts to claim half the property were dismissed, and she was left with nothing but her own lies and a tarnished reputation. Watching her face the consequences was satisfying in a way I'd never expected, but it also left a bitter taste in my mouth. I realized that the betrayal had changed everything: my trust, my perspective, my future. I moved out of the house, took my savings, and started over. It wasn't easy. The emotional scars ran deep. I felt angry, humiliated, and betrayed, but I also felt a strange sense of liberation. I'd fought for what was mine and I'd won. The experience made me see people differently, how easily they can lie, cheat, and manipulate when they think they can get away with it. It taught me that sometimes you have to be ruthless to protect yourself from betrayal. Lisa's bitchy attitude never really changed. She still tried to spin stories, trying to paint herself as the victim, but I saw through her every time. I knew she'd never admit to her mistakes or take responsibility for what she did. That's okay. I don't need her approval anymore. I've learned that some people are just selfish, manipulative, and dishonest. And the only way to survive that is to stand your ground, fight back, and never let them walk all over you. Looking back, I wish I'd seen her true nature sooner. I wish I hadn't trusted her so blindly. But I also realize that I can't change the past. I can only learn from it and move forward. I've become more cautious, more aware of red flags, and more determined to protect myself and my future. I've learned that money isn't everything, but it's a powerful tool to defend what's yours. I've also learned that betrayal cuts deep, but resilience and justice can heal wounds if you're willing to fight for them. Now I'm rebuilding my life, taking it slow, focusing on myself, and making sure I never let someone manipulate me like that again. The pain of betrayal will never fully go away, but I refuse to let it define me. I'm stronger now, and I know I'll be okay. The lessons I've learned are harsh but necessary. I hope anyone reading this who's going through something similar finds strength in knowing that even in the darkest moments, you can come out on top. Sometimes, the greatest revenge is simply reclaiming your life and proving that no one can take away your dignity if you fight for it.